Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. Jacqueline. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. Jacqueline at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello and welcome everybody to the Wild at Heart show. Before we start, Happy New Year to everyone out there. Happy New Year. I wish everyone a tremendous, amazing, successful 2023, a better one than last year. My name is Roland FRIEDL. I welcome you on the Wild at Heart show. I'm the creator of this show, if we want to say so, the moderator. Wild at Heart is the show for men, about men, and about men's topics. It's for men, by men, about men. Yeah, that's it. Oh, it's the start in the year, gentlemen. All good. So great to have you back on the show. The topic today is about New Year's resolution. Many people are doing New Year's resolution, especially men too. I know it from my own history and from friends. That's the topic. Normally we have a panel list here of different people. We do it today. We do it a little bit differently, but that's about later. Yeah, as I said, my name is Roland. Right now I'm broadcasting from Portugal here. I left my home base in Spain, in Mallorca, in March last year, and since then I'm traveling through Europe, working and living in my motorhome. As I said, the world is my office, the world is my home. I love to travel. That's what I always did, mostly in America, South America, in Asia and Africa. And this time I'm focused more on Europe in my motorhome. So I'm here in South Portugal, but I will talk about where I am a little bit later. Yes, and as I said, this show we do a little bit differently because the other guys have a day off. So we will do this show in an interview form, and I invited and I asked actually the founder and the CEO of this tremendous show of USA Global TV and Radio, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, to interview me about this topic. So I'm very happy that she had the time and the energy to come in and join me on the show, Dr. Jacqueline.
Hi, Roland. Nice to see you.
Nice to meet you. Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you as well. I wasn't sure if I got lost when I ended up here on the men's show, and I thought, oh, this is a great opportunity. So thank you for inviting me, and I'm really looking forward to this interview.
Yes, so after many, many shows, the first time that we had a female on the show, what is quite exciting. And, normally we are very strict, and, I love to go to barbershops. 2 days ago, I've been on a tremendous barbershops, and I love barbershops because women are not allowed to go into it. So it's really a peaceful place. There's no talking or arguing. I love it. But this time, I'm very happy that you're on the show, and we talk about New Year's resolutions.
It's an honor. Thank you, Roland. A question I have for you before we get into the resolutions, because I think it really leads into the resolutions. I was just speaking with someone, a gentleman, about the show, and he wanted to understand what was the whole premise of the show. And I was explaining that for a long time, and I'm not sure if it's still continuing, that's what I'm going to ask you, men felt uncomfortable sharing their feelings. They felt like they had to put on, as the British would say, a stiff upper lip and keep everything to themselves because otherwise they would look weak. And you and your panelists have done a really fabulous job in just opening up about all the different topics. And being backstage as a producer, I actually, in listening to what you all shared, I learned so much that I think probably applies to men all across the world, but we're not hearing from all of them. We're hearing from you and your panel. And so what I'd like to know from you is, as a result of doing this show and bringing the men forward and having them here on a weekly basis, do you feel that men are still uncomfortable sharing?
Well, not this panelist, but most of the men, absolutely. I before I started this show, I started working with men some years ago. It's called Sparring for Men because, first of all, I'm a man by myself, and I also made this experience that from the beginning in kindergarten, in school, military, university, and so on, working for the corporate world, you are trained, you're really trained or thrilled not to show emotions, to be cool, to be very focused, to be always on task, no emotions allowed. And what I experienced after all these years in training, school, university, military, business, is I'm not happy anymore. And actually, to my last relationship, I got a feedback, and what really drove me very much is when you learn to suppress your negative emotions to feel safe, to protect yourself for any reason, you also unlearn to recognize and feel your positive emotions. So there's no happiness anymore. There's no joyfulness anymore. So I started to work on this topic is, really do this deep inner work and look into myself and let these negative emotions, the anger, the fear, and all this negative emotion coming out and working on each of them. And really let it out. And the interesting thing is by that is the positive emotions came back slowly. So, and I found out in many communications, especially, my main business is consulting, coaching, training multinational companies and their executives, management is, when you work with men in a group, everyone is cool, very competitive. I'm the best, I'm the richest one, I'm the most successful, I have the largest car, the most beautiful girl, or whatever. So men are very, very competitive. And that's the reason why they don't show any emotions, because they believe that it's weak. It's kind of form of being weak when you show emotions. But when you talk to them face to face, they open up more and more. That's why I started this men's work, where we meet online in a safe space. And what I found out is that men need men to talk. As I said, it's interesting. I recently, there was a study a few years ago coming out that I guess it was 84, over 80% of men don't have a best friend. I mean, they have a buddy where they go for a beer or, I don't know, do barbecue together or go to a car race or whatever, but 84% don't have a best friend, meaning really opening up and being honest and speak about their anxieties, about their self-doubts, their fears, and so on. So most men don't have, but men need men to talk. And there's another interesting aspect on that. When people say, women say, my man is cheating on me, he has another girl, and the reason for that is it's not to excuse it, but it was my own story too. And there's a lot of research on that. When you don't open up, as a man, you don't open up to other men, especially in business. You're very competitive, maybe also in a gym or wherever. And then but you have self-doubt sometimes. You're not always a 100% hero. Yeah, you have your self-doubts, you have your good days, you have your bad days. And now you're in a relationship, and you know what? You're together with your girlfriend or your wife 1, 2, for 5 years or 10 years or even longer. And she already figured out that he's not the prince on the white horse. Absolutely not. He has his good side, but his bad sides also. So she's a little bit the illusion is gone. And then you have a problem, and now you want to open up and talk to your wife and say, no, I can't do it. Because it looks like I'm weaker than she already thinks I am. So what men do is they go out and they connect with other women on a bar in business and talk about their inner world. And when you talk about your inner world, about your emotions, this is the spot, this is the venue, this is the place where intimacy starts. Intimacy starts not in bed. Intimacy starts when you talk about your inner world, about yourself. So intimacy starts. You talk to a strange woman in a bar or somebody you know from a job. Or you talk with this person. You open up. Intimacy starts, and then most of them it ended up, as we know, in a hotel room. So men need men to talk. That's why I started this, and that's why we have this men show here, just to be role models and show other men out there who are listening on a podcast or radio or viewing us on a TV station or on a social media platform. Okay, there are men, different backgrounds. We are guys from different countries, different backgrounds, different ages, different religions, and so on. And we open up and we talk. very, very open and honestly without feeling weak. And the guys always say, hey, Roland, this show was really good. It was cool to talk about myself. It also was very good and healing to hear the other guys. I'm not the only man who have self-doubts or anxieties or whatever. So yeah, it's coming, but most men are really, really afraid to talk about it. But it's a learning process. It takes time. But as I said, it starts with myself. It starts with the team opening up, being a role model for others, and maybe we can encourage other ones.
Thanks for sharing all that, Roland. I really admire what you're doing and what the panelists are sharing. And you talked about intimacy, and I'm wondering, as men start to open up to other men, does that feeling of fear, of inferiority, of maybe being compromised when you were younger, so many different emotions we could talk about, does that start to subside and then a bond is formed with that other person, with that man, and that bond can be a lifelong friendship, or it can be something just where you have a conversation once and then that's it, but you actually are sharing your feelings, which is a form of intimacy?
Well, I guess there are two ways. First of all, building up trust, opening up is a process. Sometimes it's a faster process. For some men, it's a slower process, depending on their level of I wouldn't say education, but their level of maturity. And I have friends, and like the panelists, I all know them before, except Big Scott, is where this is really a process over years and years, where you meet, where you talk, you're opening up, and then you realize, oh, I don't get punished, or he's not smiling about me or laughing about me, or is not publishing on a social media platform what I told this guy. So it's a building up process. And of course, it's a boundary. Absolutely. When I talk with Marcin or with Christian or with Mohammed, for example, there's a really deep friendship and trust there. But I also experienced it actually last year when I joined a men's gathering, a men's festival, actually in Austria. You meet men you never met before, but you feel safe. In this venue, there's a safe environment, and then you open up to somebody you've never seen before, and maybe after this, I guess it was a 40 gathering, maybe you'll never see again. Yeah, it can happen, but it's a process. It's a process of your personal growth. It can be both, building up a really big friendship, or you just open to somebody up on a venue, like people talking to a therapist, for example, meeting the first time. It's a process. Everyone is different.
That makes a lot of sense. A question that comes to mind is, as a man, if the man doesn't feel comfortable speaking with his partner and feels more comfortable speaking with a guy, is it possible that it's the relationship? Because at some point, once you become aware of the fact that you feel uncomfortable for many reasons, you're going to be belittled or punished or yelled at or whatever it might be. Once you're aware of that, you go to your partner and explain, well, I need to be able to speak with you. I need to be able to share what I'm feeling without being judged or fear of repercussions. And if that doesn't take place, then maybe the relationship is doomed anyway.
Well, first of all, I'm not a professional therapist. I'm a coach, but what I can tell from my own experience is, when you start a relationship in very young years, you're not mature, you don't have any experience. You have this, I don't know, maybe this Hollywood image. You fall in love with somebody and you start a family, you settle down, you have a garden, you have kids, you have a dog, and everything is happiness. Like was my beginning, I saw these movies and I said, yeah, because actually my childhood was not the most beautiful one. And you see these images and these movies, and then you have an ideal vision in your head, and then you meet the first girl, and not the first girl, but I married young, I got kids very young, and you have this idle picture in your head about yourself, but also about your wife, and then then it's real time. Then you have this daily stuff you have to handle, all these challenges with the work, with the relationship, with the kids, and so on. and you realize more and more, oh, this is not Hollywood. It's a little bit different than the script they showed you on the screen. And the thing is, when you not already went to this own process of personal growth and really working on yourself, then you start fighting, arguing, or like myself, you become passive. You don't talk to your wife because you, as I said before, everyone knows after 1 or 2 years or even faster, she's not the princess, he's not the superhero or the prince on the white horse. We are human beings with all our positive and negatives, with all our light, but also with our darkness. And the point is, if you don't want to make it worse, so you believe, you try to avoid to make it worse by not talking about your inner world, because you're afraid that she, I talk as from a man's perspective, that she gets the idea that, oh, he's even worse than the picture I already have. But this is really not a good idea. It's opening up. And when I see relationships from people who come together, maybe it's the second marriage or a later relationship, when you already, like myself, and I'm still not done, but when you already go to this personal growth and you look at your dark sides, when you get a better understanding about yourself and you're more awakened, better consciousness, and then you start the relationship, and ideally your partner too, then you start. Then there's a good start, and you start from the beginning talking about your inner world. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I want to talk a little bit now about the New Year's resolutions. So when you think about the resolutions, and maybe you made some, maybe you didn't, do you go to your buddies? Do you go to your men's group and share with them what the resolutions are going to be? Or is it something that you keep more to yourself?
Okay. Well, I also here I went through different stages. In the beginning, I remember when I was younger in university time, I'm not quite sure when I started to do resolutions. I guess it was my 17, 18, I started with New Year's resolutions, something like that. I did it just for myself, but, very motivated. Next year's the best year. The best is yet to come. Very motivated. And the list was far too long. I was challenging myself much too much. I always challenge myself, but much too much, especially with new resolutions. And then what's coming up is there's a lot of frustration because it's not working. You don't get the results because you're doing too much. You force yourself too much, whatever it is. And then you give up very, very soon. This was my beginning. And then I don't know where I got it, but I said, okay, you have to make it public. Talk to other people and well, it does it. It can help, but it even puts more pressure on you. You talk to others, maybe your family members or your buddies, your other man, your best friends. You talk about it and do this, and this, and this. So you have witnesses for that. For some people it's helpful, but it also puts a little more pressure on it. I did this for a long time and it was working. Actually, always when I was leaving my path, meaning when I was going into a different direction, job-wise, relationship-wise, or whatever, I always made it public to my best friends. I always, because now it's out, it's not just something in my mind. I think about it, I structure it, I plan it, I make a strategy. No, it's out. I speak about it, it's out. And then it puts some pressure on me, but it's also for me then it's a commitment, because I'm a handshake guy. With me we don't make a contract. I shake my hand and say, when I say so, I do so. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but I will do so. I always have this joke, when my wife said, can you repair this and this in the bathroom or whatever? I said, you don't have to remind me every 6 months. So I do it, but I don't know when. Yeah, I will do it. So once I said so, I do so for sure, and I never forget it. But I don't do New Year's resolutions. I guess I stopped it years ago. Actually years ago. I don't do it. I try to do my best and to work on myself and improve myself every single day, and not just on the 1st of January or start on the 1st of January. You can always start. And that's a funny story. I got a book. Actually, it was a friend of mine recommended it, a very successful friend of mine. He recommended this book. It's a working book. It has 365 chapters, like days in the year, and you work every day on this chapter. And I bought this book. I will never forget it, in February. I mean, years ago, 25 years ago, something like that. I bought this in February. And you know what the stupid Roland does? He waited until January next year to start. I mean, there was an option you can start in January whenever you want, and then you continue for January. No, I was waiting the whole year until January to start a book. And that's what I said. It's about resolutions. Start when you feel it. It's not about the 1st of January. Start, do it.
Yeah, that's so true. There's a commercial, and I can't think what it is because I know you don't watch TV at all, but my mother had it on. And there's a man standing in a room or something, and he says, I can't do it right now because I'm busy doing this, or I'm going to get to it, or one day I will. And it turns out that year after year goes by and nothing ever happens. And I feel like when it comes to New Year's resolutions, that there's an opportunity to put so much pressure on yourself that you set yourself up to fail. And then you feel worse about yourself. And then you're even more procrastinating to do anything to get out of where you are. And I just wondered what your thoughts are. If you need outside, I already know the answer, but if you need outside validation for what it is you're going to do you look for outside validation? For example, when you decided to leave Mallorca and go into your motorhome, did you need to have a certain approval from a person or persons for you to do that? Or did you just say, this is what I'm doing because I know it's the best thing for me?
Well, actually, this was also a learning process. I think I remember when I was younger, of course, there was a lot of external references, asking other people for advice, for sure. But as I'm getting older and getting more experienced, and since many, many years, I have a very strong internal reference. I mean, if I need a new skill for my new path, of course, I ask for it. But to make a decision, no, it's myself. It's just myself. I make the decision for myself because it's to be honest, it's all about me, and it's all about you, and it's all about the other person. It's not about losing weight for somebody else. It's not about stop smoking for somebody else, or it's not about doing this or this for somebody else. It's all about you. No, I have a very strong internal reference when it comes to decision. Absolutely. But as I said, it was a learning process. It was not at the beginning. Absolutely not. But I learned it because I found out it's just for me. And I remember when my kids and I were raised up there in their 30s, mid-20s, my 3 boys. And I always said, when they went to school and they came back had an exam or whatever, and they told me their marks, I always asked them for them. Okay, what did you get? What degree did you have? What marks did you get? And they told me whatever it was. I know in the US you have A, B, C, D, E. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Whatever it was, I said, okay, are you happy? Are you happy? Yes or no? If no, do more. If yes, it's okay. You're not learning from me. So I trained my kids, or I tried to educate my kids in very early years to have to trust their internal reference. Absolutely. But because most people have an external reference, that's why you have all this fake stuff on YouTube or on Instagram, and all this posing, because people are following other people and they're not living their own lives. And I guess it was 3 years ago, I posted something on Instagram, and it says, be less impressed and more involved. It's about being less impressed and more involved. If you want to change something, you really want to change something, do it. But 2 things: you don't have to wait for the 1st of January. You can start whatever day is on, whatever month is on. If you really want to change something, do it better, differently, whatever, you can start, first of all. And secondly, don't have too much on your list. It's too overwhelming. It's not working.
Absolutely. And Roland, I think just as a coach, and I know in the work that you do with people, it's sometimes only because of the fear of losing people in our lives that we don't do what it is we want to do, because we know when we step out from the normal day to day that it's going to change the dynamics of our relationship or our family or our work situation. And not everyone's going to be happy for you. Not everyone's going to be a cheerleader. And as a result, you may lose relationships. You may end up single. You may end up unemployed. You may end up on your own. And even though I just feel for myself, because I went out on my own, it's been probably the best experience I've ever had. But prior to doing that, thinking about the paycheck and the health benefits and not going on travel that's paid for at 5-star resorts, there's that ultimate thing about, wow, is what I'm doing crazy? And of course, you ask enough people and you're going to get enough people saying, yeah, that sounds pretty crazy to me. I wouldn't do it. But when you get on the other side, you realize how liberating it is. And if only you had done it before. So what I'd love to have you share about is how people can embrace wanting to make the change, knowing that there's going to be sacrifice.
Okay. Well, first of all, I strongly believe you never lose friends. Your relationships break, but the real friends never lose. And when I look at my own history, I had some people who crossed my path, and for a month, a year, for 10 years, and then they disappeared. But my very, very best friends, I have them since 55 years and 38 years, 40 years, and my very good friends. And I always say you have less friends than finger on a hand. They're really friends. The other friends, you meet them, but I wouldn't call them friends at this point. Well, I had a mentor, and I was in my 21, and I said, you start being successful or becoming successful when you give a shit what other people think about you. It doesn't mean to be an asshole. It doesn't mean you be an egoist. It doesn't mean to be a narcissist. It means you are just trusting your internal reference. You're not depending on an external reference. You don't need the clapping of the hands or a shoulder clapping from somebody. You do it because you have to do it. There's a passion. There's a mission. You're mission driven. You want to do it, no matter what other people think about it. And I always say, if you have a vision, it's nice. If people say around you you're crazy, then you're on the right path. That's what I learned. I remember many times, I always went different ways than my neighborhood in the city I grew up, and I always went different ways. And some people said, I remember when I was building up a huge business, thousands of franchise partners all over the globe. And some of my so-called friends says, yeah, this is illegal because franchise system was not very common in Europe at the time. It's illegal what you're doing. You end up in jail. You're going to lose everything you had so far. You end up in jail. And then I had some of my family members said this, but they just said it to protect me because they had no idea about business and our franchise, to protect me. And I had some so-called friends. They said, oh, Roland is doing something new. And the point is, and what I found out from psychology stand of view is, when you are in a community, in your peer group or whatever you call it, your neighborhood, and you stand up and you get out of this and you go in a different direction to build up a new business or move to another country or whatever, many people dream up of having an own successful business. Many people dream of having this and this. Many people dream of moving to wherever. Many have vision. Most of them don't have the courage of it. So when you do it, what you do is you show them a mirror and say, when I can do it, you can do it. Why the fuck don't you move your ass? And that's why they hold you back. It's not because of you, it's because of them. They hold you back because you show them that it's possible. Meaning when you can do it, they can do it, but they don't do it because they don't have the courage to do it. They don't have the willpower. They don't have the commitment and the motivation. That's why people hold you back. It's all about them. It's never about you. And that's what I learned in my early years. And I remember when I was married with my first wife and we built up this franchise system, and it was really tough at the beginning. We had a very fast success and then bang down, and then it was a roller coaster. And I was really thinking about giving up. And people from outside said this to me, do this and stop it and do something else. And I will never forget this. I sit down with my wife and she said, do you really think it's a good idea? Because this neighbor says this family member says this friend says this. And I said, do they pay our rent? Do they pay our cars? Do they pay the education of our kids? No. So they should shut up. I pay for it, so it's my decision. I go my way. That's what I learned in my early years. It's all about making a decision, and of course, a coach can be helpful. For me, the coach was my life because I had a hard time, as I said, in my childhood. This was a very good coach for myself. But yeah, if you're struggling with that, go for a coach, and it's all of us. In my years, when I'm 58 now. Actually, this year. I will become 59, so it's the last time. So there's just the 5 in front. But anyway, but when I was young, 40 years ago, it was not very common to have a coach, but now it's very common. So please go for it. If I would know about coaching, if there has been a coach there at the time, I will go for that. I was reading books and watching the audios, those audio cassettes from successful people. That's how I trained. But nowadays it's easier. You can meet in person or online a very good coach you trust and work on yourself.
You shared so many gems of gold right there. Thank you. I think that you really hit the nail on the head. And I remember when I left corporate in 2020 that, as I mentioned, I didn't get a lot of support from people. But when I went to turn in my letter of resignation and I met with one of my leaders, and I remember he looked across the table at me. He was totally shocked at what he read in the letter of resignation, just that I was leaving. And he said, I really admire you. I give you a lot of credit. He said, because it takes a lot of guts to go out on your own. And I know you're going to make it. And I didn't need that, but it just felt good, because I thought to myself, this is the last time I'm going to make this drive to this office. This is the last time I'm going to have a meeting on Monday, go around the table and everybody says what they're working on. And so the reason I bring it up is because if we listen to other people, whether it's good or bad, sometimes we can get confused and start to doubt ourselves. But inside, we know what it is we want to do. We know what's right and what's not right. And I think one of the biggest disappointments, I guess, I don't want to use that word disappointment, it's not missed opportunities, is when we don't walk through that door, when we don't open that window and look outside and see what's around. We just stay in the same environment, in the same community with the same people. And that's great. That's for some people. But for many people, they have that curiosity. And if they could just cut that cord with fear, they'd be able to do it.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm not a superhuman being. I also have fear and self-doubt, of course. But I go further. I do the next step. I'm also afraid. And I said, oh, what's going on? I can tell you a story afterwards when I moved in Moto. Yeah, I have it too. I feel it too. But I go, but it doesn't stop me. And I learned 2 things in life, actually, from a mentor. He's from the US, from Florida, Jeff Ruperti. And he said, Roland, when you listen to other people, then you get what other people have, and maybe they have nothing. And this really relates from my experience. One of my best friends, we're now 38 years. We already know each other. He's a very successful businessman. He's older than me, older than my mentor. And whatever I did, he always said, yeah, go for it. If you want it, go for it, go for it. He always encouraged me to do it. And if I was on the wrong path, he asked me some question and I found out, no, it's not a good decision. But he always encouraged me. All my mentors have been successful business people. And that's the other thing I learned is, if you want to go in a new direction, business-wise, or whatever it is, ask somebody who is already there where you want to be. Don't ask the losers in the neighborhood. Sorry for that. It doesn't make sense. Yeah, I mean, if you want to start a bakery shop, what are you doing? Go to a successful bakery shop and ask the manager how they're doing. Learn from the successful ones. And it's the same in private life. If you want to do something different, talk to somebody who already is there where you want to be. Don't talk to your friends. It doesn't make sense. As at the beginning, they want to hold you back for different reasons. Go to people, ask people who already went this path, and learn from them, and get the motivation and the encouragement from them. And it's so important is if you listen to people, if you do what other people say, you get what they have. Maybe they have nothing. So be very aware whom you're asking questions, whom you're asking for advice, and to whom you're listening to.
I love that. And I remember, I love to sing. I've always loved to sing. And I dated a couple different guys, and they said I had a horrible voice. And I always believed I had a horrible voice. And I would sing only in the car, or I'd sing by myself in the shower. And then Madeline Chan, as you know, she reached out to me and she said, no, there's a singer in there. And now we have 2 singles we're releasing. Whether everyone thinks I have a horrible voice or not, I like to sing and I'm putting it out there. But for years, I let myself be held back because I listened to what somebody else had to say. And why did they say it? I don't know. It doesn't matter. What matters,
especially in partnership, I see it very, very often that mostly men bring down their spouse to feel better. Except of working on their own growth and development, they bring the partner down to be more in the shiny light. I see it very, very often, very, very often. It's easier to bring the other person down to stay higher than grow and bring the and take the other person with you. And I remember my second wife. You know, I for years I was playing golf like crazy almost every day. I stopped it, but I was playing golf almost every day, quite good. And so I met my second wife, and she told me, yeah, she always had rich guys playing golf, but she never went with them. They never invited her, encouraged her to play. And I said, hey, I booked an amazing South Africa trip. So, but we play golf there too. So I encouraged her to start golf. And she was shaggering and really no self-esteem. She was crying on the golf course, and she was not successful. And I always encouraged her. You know, she hit the ball. The ball just went for 1 meter, and I said, "Amazing, darling! You're 1 meter closer to the hole." So it's about encouraging people. You know, encouraging. And then we went to South Africa, and we met a couple there. And actually, she was playing better than him. And he was always making her down. And so she get nervous, and then he made the point. And I see it very, very often, especially in a relationship, that one person is putting the other person down, putting them under my thumb, you know, the Rolling Stones song, Under My Thumb, putting them under their thumb so they feel better. I see it very often. And this is a very toxic relationship. Absolutely. Getting out.
Yeah, and I have to say I've been involved in relationships like that, and no more. But that could be a whole other show, Roland. So, what I'd like to spend the last part of the show is in the work that you do, the men's work. What are some things that men can do right now, today, so that they can get more in touch with their feelings, and whether they're with somebody who's going to listen to them or not listen to them? You run groups that you listen to men. There are certainly other men on this platform who are listening to men. If somebody doesn't have someone to talk to, what can they do aside from go down a dark path and feel like they're alone?
Well, it's actually, go on the internet. There are more and more men's group coming out. It's not only myself. If you're sparing for men, it's sparing with double R for the figure, and then man.com. It's one platform. But the other platforms too. Go out and meet with other people. Meet with other men in a virtual room or face to face. Doesn't matter. There are more and more opportunities coming. Go there. And don't be afraid, and don't be shy in the beginning. I mean, just go there for the first time. You don't have to talk. You don't have to open up. You know, it's just the healing process starts when you just listen to other guys and listen that they have the same issues, the same challenges, the same problems that you. But we men, we always trained that we are strong and brave and superhuman beings, and then when we are not, then we believe we are losers, and we believe we're the only poor boy in the whole universe. Now, it's not. Everyone has challenges. Okay, so just go join a group and just sit in and just listen. You don't have to talk about yourself in the beginning if you don't want, if you don't feel so. Just listen, and you'll learn so much from other guys and say, oh, maybe you can relate to this and this and that. You learn a lot just by listening to. And when you feel safe and you trust, then open up. It's a process, but nobody expects you to open up in the beginning. That's not, just go in and listen. It's a healing process in the beginning. And the other way is, it's a tougher way is go to this. And besides that, I always encourage people, find a moment in silence. Maybe you go in nature or somewhere in a highway, and really do there and sit there without doing anything, without any distraction, without mobile phones, TV, reading, whatever. Just be there and face what's coming up in silence. What's coming up, and face it, and don't suppress it. Let it out. Yeah, acknowledge it. Let it out. Maybe you have to scream. Maybe you have to cry. It doesn't matter. Just go through this. Without this, you only stay on the surface. Even if you're in a men's group, you only stay on the surface. You have also to do this inner work. Yeah? It's good to share with other men, to get encouraged, to learn about it, but you also have to do your inner work. That's the hardest part of it.
Very well said. Thank you. That's a great way to close out the show. Let's say hello to Enoch. Thanks for the show. Thank you.
Hi, Enoch. Hi, Enoch.
And also hello to Facebook user. Thanks for being here. Roland, as we close out, once again, I'm going to spotlight you. Please let people know how they can reach out and who you would like to contact you.
Yeah, how you can reach out, and yeah, the best way is to go on my website. I will say my main website, because I have several websites for different branches. So go to my main website. It's my name, rolandfriedl.com. I will spell it for those guys who are on a podcast or on a radio station. It's ROLANDFRIEDL, rolandfriedl.com. And it's in English available, and in German, all my websites. And from there, you can have a link to SBS, that's the business website, or the S4M, the Sparing for Men website, or the Wireless Life Rock, or whatever you want. Yeah, who wants to contact me? Hey, guys, whoever wants to talk to me or needs somebody to talk or just wants to share his or her experience. Can also be a her, when you're in a relationship with a guy who doesn't talk, who doesn't open up, you can also contact me. Maybe I can help you. And yeah, let's talk. It's all about talking. It's about caring, sharing, and connecting.
Yes, it is. And as we close out, I say this as often as I can. When you're watching this show, Roland's here. He wants to help. He wants you to reach out. So why are you not reaching out? Why are you not reaching out to him on LinkedIn, going to his website? That's why our team is here. That's why our guests come to share their story. They don't want to be sitting in isolation. They're here to provide entertainment, education, hope, and inspiration. So right now, while you're watching, go over to LinkedIn, look for Roland Friedl, and connect with him. And Roland, thank you so much for permitting me to be on the show with you today. I feel honored to be the first woman on this show. And we'll look forward to having the guys back next week. So safe travels to you. And thanks to everybody who's watching or listening on the live or the replay. We will see you again tomorrow. Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.